Thank you for joining us. This is News Central. I'm Felicity. As the weekend, the top stories tonight. U.S. issues security alerts to citizens in Nigeria as Middle East bombardments continue, with casualties soaring across region. Police Council confirms Tunji Disu as substantive Inspector General of Police. INEC assures Nigerians of readiness to deploy technology for 2027 general elections and ensure hitch-free exercise.
In business, Nigeria's net reserves increased from $3.99 billion in 2023 to $34.80 billion in 2025.
Sports, Super Falcons sets for second leg friendly against Indomitable Lionesses of Cameroon in Yaoundé.
Details in a moment. We'll begin tonight in the Middle East, where U.S. President Donald Trump says he is not ruling out the possibility of sending American ground troops into Iran as tensions continue to escalate in that region. Speaking in Washington on Monday, the U.S. president warned that a new and big wave of attacks could be launched. While the current U.S. military campaign has so far relied on aerial strikes using missiles and bombs, Trump declined to rule out deploying ground forces, a move that would significantly raise the stakes and risk American casualties. Meanwhile, the United States government has issued a global security alert to its citizens in Nigeria and around the world amid escalating hostilities between U.S. and Iran. The alert, issued by the State Department on Sunday, urged Americans to exercise increased caution following recent U.S. attacks against Iran. The advisory warned that evolving security conditions could affect travel and safety, including potential interruptions to air travel. The alert also recommended that U.S. citizens enroll in a Smart Traveler Enrollment Program to receive timely security updates. Now, in reaction to that, the Inspector General of Police, Tunji Disu, has reassured Nigerians of sustained peace amid tensions in the Middle East. Speaking through the Force Public Relations Officer, Benjamin Hundeyin, the Nigerian police says it has intensified intelligence-led operations across key regions to prevent any breach of security. The IGP also urged residents to remain vigilant and report suspicious activities through established channels. Staying with developments in the Middle East, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has defended his decision to keep the United Kingdom out of the initial United States and Israeli strikes on Iran following sharp criticism from U.S. President Donald Trump. Speaking in Parliament on Monday, Starmer said it was his responsibility to act in Britain's national interest after Washington requested to use British military bases in the conflict. Trump, in an interview, said he was very disappointed by Britain's refusal to immediately support the U.S.-Israel military action launched on Saturday. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called for maximum restraint as fighting intensifies between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon. The renewed clashes come amid the ongoing Israeli and U.S. military confrontation with Iran, which backs the armed group. Now, according to the UN, there has been a serious escalation in cross-border fire along the Blue Line, the UN demarcated boundary between Israel and Lebanon. U.S. spokesman Stefan Dujarric said the situation is evolving rapidly and is being closely monitored. The United Nations is warning that further escalation could destabilize the wider region. Adeni Yukunu is an international journalist. He joins me from Chicago for this Middle East escalation, while Professor Iyala Peter-Said, a policy expert, joins me from Philadelphia. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight. Let's start from the very beginning, Adeni. While the U.S. and Iran were engaged in negotiations previously, did you see the situation degenerating to this level? Although the Tehran foreign minister said on Saturday that it knew the worst would happen.
Well, let's understand that since the romance of Venezuela and Iran, by China. And the fact that China appears to be gaining certain levels of obvious ascendancy in global economic power as well as military stature, the United States appear to not want to countenance anybody who comes within, according to them, the Monroe's Doctrine hemisphere, which of course are triggered what happened in Venezuela. But if you look at Iran, of every country in the world, that one would describe as purchaser of the black gold, China appears to be one of the very good customers of Iran. And apart from that, which you're talking about socioeconomic power, you also want to talk about what Iran has had its hand in for many years, which has to do with the sponsorship of terrorism. You look at Hezbollah, you look at the Shiites, particularly the Zakzaki movement in Nigeria, and many other countries of the world. So when the negotiations started, and over the years they've been talking about in the first place, closing certain uranium program, then you also hear repeatedly the late Khamenei say, death to Israel, death to America, and the fact that his goal or his dream is to say that the United States of America doesn't exist. These things are actually concerning. So what we find happen in Iran is an accumulation of what perhaps has been considered what the U.S. doesn't feel comfortable with, and what appears to be a huge threat to the existence of Israel, which of course is part of what is going on over there. But let us also understand that away from that is the fact that intelligence brings up certain things that many persons who are followers of global policy and development do not completely have a picture of. It's also important to say that the mid-70s hold a history where certain set constituted authority of the United States of America, what you describe as the Parliament of Iran, ceased to exist because of supposedly or outrightly the intervention of the FBI, which has resulted in what we have today in Iran. So you look at the entire picture and you see that it is not just one reason that has prompted what is happening in Iran today, but you have to also consider that the country itself has a lot of human rights abuses that have become so loud and beyond what we have. So indeed, what we have today, or what we've had since over a couple of days ago, would appear to be a response and a determination of the U.S. government to see that certain things are discontinued. Okay. I also must emphasize, okay, let me listen, please.
Yes, please, and so I can bring in Professor Peterside. Your thoughts on likely implication of President Trump's refusal to rule out sending ground troops into Iran? What would it have on diplomatic efforts to de-escalate the ongoing situation in the Middle East?
I think that there's a lot of dissatisfaction in the United States as to why we went to war. That has not been defined properly, and what the immediate threat to the United States was that prompted this attack on Iran. Yes, Iran is a rogue nation, but so is not Korea. You do not go on to war out of choice without stating clearly what the threat is to America and getting a Congress to approve. The implications of where we are is that there's no clear objective to this war. Every time you listen to the president, he changes the target. Is it regime change? Is it wiping out the leaders of Iran? Is it destroying their missiles? Is it destroying their capability to produce nuclear weapons? When you told us in June that you had actually obliterated the ability to manufacture a nuclear bomb. So there's a lot of tension in America. There's a lot of uncertainty. And the death toll to American soldiers is beginning to rise. At the last count, there are 7 dead Americans. As the death toll rises, there will be questions asked and people trying to justify the cost of this war.
All right, Adeni, in this, what measures can Nigeria take to ensure the safety of its citizens and interests? And how does the U.S. security alert to its citizens in Nigeria reflect the global nature of this crisis?
Well, if you look at the fact that the United States of America has issued warning to its citizens in Nigeria regarding what is going on. We understand that Nigeria is not a country in isolation as far as the incidences in Iran is concerned. Many years before now, especially with the administration of the former governor of Kaduna State, we know what Sheikh El-Zakzaki was to the people of Kaduna and to the entire Southwest, and what his followers were always doing anytime they had their procession. So that tells you that Kaduna, which is a very important state in that region of the country, if it is unsettled, it's enough to unsettle a whole lot of things as far as the country is concerned, because we know what normally happens when violence bursts out in that part of the country. And I think that the Nigerian government should be very serious, because I've seen processions by Nigerians who are carrying certain pictures of the late Khamenei and many other people, as they so desire, pulling the flag of the United States of America on the ground in their procession. I think that those things are reflective of the mindset of the people of this country, especially northern Nigeria, and bearing in mind that that particular procession or the protest they are having, which has not turned violent, could become something that the government may not be able to manage in that region. It therefore behoves Mr. Tunji Disu to be very strong. Yes, statements have been issued. There has to be deployment of people to stop that protest right now, because the issue in the Middle East is not something that really affects us. If you look at the position of Nigeria on global geography, we're quite far with that. But if you look at the connection of the North to certain religious affiliation or affiliate bodies and the sentiment of that region, you'd understand that there's a tendency. Nigeria is a Sunni Muslim practicing nation. We're talking about the Shiite practicing region of the world. But Islam is a religion that unites everybody, especially those who share that sentiment. Apart from that, I've also seen people that are supposedly leaders of thought who are making comments regarding the situation in Iran. While I respect people's opinion, I think that we should not make room to accommodate unintelligent postures, as this doesn't make things good. Then let's understand at the same time that we're talking about a connection to terrorism here. The government must understand what its position is and not allow people to share certain sentiments that are not really effective to us. We need to understand that Nigeria has to stand on it. Yes, please.
Yeah,
yes, please.
Fair point you're making. I do hate to interrupt because you're making such valid points, but we're time pressed. And there's something very important I would also like to ask Prof. So I read earlier that that this crisis is likely to have Nigerians pay for more prices for oil. And then just a few minutes ago, in one of our programs here, Politics HQ, one of the economic analysts is saying that economically, this might be, in terms of the, I'm talking about in terms of the Strait of Hormuz, that economically, this might bring more economic gains for Nigeria in general, but that the people will have to pay a little more. I don't know if you understand that and you could perhaps explain, because I'm sure those who were watching were as confused as I was.
So there's a smart man once said, never waste a crisis. As at today, oil prices are beginning to go up. The Iranian government has closed effectively the Strait of Hormuz, which transports about 20% of the world's oil supply. That will create a scarcity, and so oil prices will go up. I think it's incumbent on Nigeria to take advantage of that and raise more money, but it's a question of what do we do with the money. Fortunately, Nigeria is an oil-producing country, and more recently we've begun to refine our own oil use. So really, that price increase externally should not affect us much. If the government plays its cards well, we should come out on the positive of the price rises. It's just beginning to rise. I think the light crude quoted today is up to $87 a barrel from $67. So there's going to be some windfall. One of the ships through the Strait of Hormuz was bombed today by Iran, effectively closing that. So I expect that oil availability to the general world will drop. Iran produces 1.6 million barrels of oil a day and transports to China. China will look for somewhere else to fill that up. So I think we can take advantage of that. What we do with the money is a different matter altogether.
So much to talk about, but we'll just have to leave it there. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for obliging us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us. Thank you.
Coming up, Federal High Court says its Chief Judge, John Soho, will appear before the Code of Conduct Bureau over alleged uncovered bank accounts. Stay with us for details. Thank you for staying with us. You're watching Tonight on News Central. A reminder of our top stories. U.S. issues security alerts to citizens in Nigeria as Middle East bombardments continue, with casualties soaring across the region. Police Council confirms Tunji Disu as Substantive Inspector General of Police. INEC assures Nigerians of readiness to deploy technology for 2027 general elections and to ensure hitch-free exercise. The Federal High Court says that its Chief Judge, John Soho, will appear before the Code of Conduct Bureau over allegations bordering on a failure to properly declare uncovered bank accounts. In a statement issued on Monday and signed by the Director of Information, Catherine Christopher, the court said Soho remains committed to cooperating with the CCB in respect of its invitation. Christopher also added that the Chief Judge would appear before the Bureau alongside his legal representative, Kanu Agabi, who is currently out of Nigeria for medical reasons, but has indicated his readiness to accompany Soho upon his return. A federal high court in Abuja has fixed April 13 to deliver judgment in the alleged 868 million naira money laundering case involving former acting accountant general of the Federation, Chukwunyere Nwabuko. Justice James Omotosho fixed the date after council adopted their final written addresses. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission is prosecuting the 9-count amended charge. The anti-graft agency alleges the defendant conspired with several firms, including Tenio Synergy Concept Limited and Turge Global Investment Limited, to convert funds suspected to be proceeds of unlawful activities. The family of former Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai says no phone tapping equipment was recovered during a search of his Abuja residence by the ICPC. The commission conducted the operation on February 19 as part of an ongoing probe. The agency is investigating alleged financial improprieties linked to his tenure between 2015 and 2023. El-Rufai had claimed he assessed a tapped conversation involving National Security Advisor Nuhu Ribadu. He acknowledged the act was unlawful while alleging similar practices occur without court orders. And to one of our big stories tonight, the Nigerian Police Council has unanimously approved the appointment of Olatunji Disu as the 23rd Inspector General of Police. The decision was reached at a meeting presided over by President Bola Tinubu at the Council Chamber of the State House in Abuja. The council, chaired by the president and comprising the 36 state governors, the chairman of the Police Service Commission and the Inspector General of Police, convened following the resignation of former IGP Kayode Egbetoku.
At the deliberation, we went through his records, his performance in office, and the recommendation. And the council was glad to approve the recommendation for him to be appointed the Inspector General of Police. He has his work cut out for him, especially in this age of talks about state police. Now, the challenges are there. He's been through it. He did a major assignment with the Rapid Response in Lagos State and FCT, so he has a record to show that he can perform.
And today's Police Council meeting, there were other colleagues who also attest to the fact that when he worked in their various states, that he actually did excel. So we want to commend Mr. President for identifying, such skills, such, officers that are not only ready to serve or hit the ground running, but they've demonstrated this over the years.
Fatai Owoseni is former Commissioner of Police in Lagos State. He joins me now for this conversation. Thank you very much for speaking with us. One of the respondents said he has his work cut out for him. And just days into his new tenure, we hear what is happening in the Middle East and then the U.S. alert here in Nigeria, among other myriad of security challenges. How is he starting off for you, and what qualities do you think will push him through this period and help him excel?
Thank you very much for having me. Very interesting. If there is anyone that can talk about the new Inspector General of Police, I'm one of the person in the best position. Is served under me. I was the Commissioner of Police in Lagos when he was the commander of RRS. And of course, the modest achievements we made in Lagos at that period, he played a major role in all the successes we recorded. And just like they have said, he has his job cut out for him. He should just hit the ground running. He has all what it takes. It's more than a colleague to me. So I can attest to the fact that when you talk of professionalism, when you talk of competence, when you talk of policing with a human face, he has all those qualities, and we just believe that he must have made some commitments to the president and to the nation. It is my belief that with resources provided for him, he should be able to succeed. And he's also lucky that he's called to serve at this period. Because if anything is going to change in the police, it is this period that we can have it. Mr. President, His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu also has a track record with what was done for the police in Lagos State.
All right. All right. I just wanted to interject quickly and say there are real issues with the police. You said he had his work is cut out for him. The police has faced criticism for police brutality and human rights abuses in the past, in the very recent past, and harassment of citizens to some degree. What steps do you think the IGP, this new IGP, should take to rebuild the level of trust between the police and the public, and perhaps show more accountability so the people see within the force?
You see, accountability, that's the word. That's the language. Police must be held accountable for whatever they do. And when you talk of trust, it's a two-way thing. We all have to work together to achieve that trust. If all the resources are provided, and we as the members of the public also know what we should do to make our police achieve what we want them to achieve. We can all do it together. Like I've said before, it's a cultural thing. The police in any society will reflect the culture. It is the culture that determines how the police perform. So we all have to work together. It's a mutual thing. If you have a situation in the country where your brother or your sister will call you as Commissioner of Police and say, Uncle, I have just driven against the traffic. Your boys have arrested me. Come and talk to them. You have already indicted yourself by saying, Uncle, I drove against the traffic. Come and talk to your boys. So we must do all this together. The police must be held accountable. The Inspector General of Police must put that mechanism in place to ensure that police that misbehave are held accountable. And like I said, we work together. And while he commanded the RRS, he was able to discipline the people that worked, under his supervision, because the RRS, when you have units like that, there's a tendency for people to misbehave. But under his watch and working with me as the Commissioner of Police in Lagos State, we were able to put the police right. We made sacrifice to change the face of the police in Lagos, and it was key to that.
All right, the rise of state policing debate in Nigeria is something that everyone is talking about. What do you think his stance is on it? And do you think his appointment will influence the discussion further?
It's not about his stand. Mr. President has made it clear. Nigerians have made it clear. All the governors have made it clear. that the National Assembly should work with Mr. President for us to be able to actualize state police. So what the Inspector General of Police should be working at now is, how do you interface within the transitory period? How do you ensure that this is successful? He has to work with Mr. President to make sure that Mr. President achieve his goal, and not just Mr. President. The police council is made up of all the state governors, and everybody wants it. So I don't think the Inspector General of Police has a choice. It's just for him to work out the modalities on how we will get that achieved. And by the way, if we have the state police, just like in other climes, that doesn't mean that the Nigeria police will not still be there. But how do we work together to make the arrangement solid? And the National Assembly has also given their commitment to say that, before the end of the year, they will make this work. So it's and I believe that he will be able to put his management together and work with people to ensure that they deliver on the mandate of Mr. President.
I guess we'll see what happens in his time. Thank you so much for speaking with us and shedding more light on the possibilities ahead.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Still ahead tonight, Zimbabwe grants presidential amnesty to nearly 4,000 inmates. We have details of this story and much more when we come back. Glad you're still with us. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has assured Nigerians of its readiness to deploy technology, including the electronic transmission of results for the 2027 general elections. Chairman of the Commission, Professor Joash Amopiton, gave the assurance during a citizens' town hall meeting in Abuja themed Electoral Act 2026, what it means for your votes and the 2027 elections. News Centre's Aishat Salihu reports.
The forum brought together civil society organizations, political parties, lawmakers and other key stakeholders to deliberate on the implementation of the new electoral law ahead of the upcoming general elections. The contentious real-time transmission of election results, electoral transparency in a free and fair environment were also brought to the front burner as discussion inflamed emotions among participants. INEC maintains it is ready to transmit results, but logistical challenges for real-time transmission of results remain.
INEC will strive as much as possible to give this country the best election. However, we may not be able to achieve 100% perfect election for now. But as far as electronic transmission of results is concerned, I said it before FCT Area Council, that we have the capacity to transmit the results, and that we're going to transmit the results. The only concern was real time.
How do we ensure that when people vote, result and vote align, result declared and the result of vote align?
We should not take the provisos that are added to the electronic transmission of voters as though it is something that just accept it like that, manage it, as Nigerians normally say. No managing.
Other gaps were equally flagged with the Electoral Act 2026, which stakeholders say it begs to be addressed ahead of 2027 general elections.
The review that you have to go back and begin to put NIN and all, the time to do all that is, and then the time for primary election, it is difficult to meet up, if not impossible. I don't see any party that will be now that doesn't have whatever that you have to start going back now to review.
For the campaign limit now, presidential campaign for 2022 is 5 billion. Now it's been taken to 10 billion. And for governorship is 1 billion. It's been taken to 3 billion. Many people who want to go in for elections, where are they going to get 1 billion?
There's still a lot of errors, and I'm not sure if you've gone through it, and you'll notice that there are things from typos. So there is still time to amend those things. And in addition to that, because there was speed, Because the normal process will be before the president signs it, you should have had a copy to read. So you could have marked off all those errors and say, oh, before you sign it, this contradicts this contradicts this.
The Electoral Act 2026 introduces clearer provisions on electronic accreditation and result management, tighter timelines for political party primaries, stricter penalties for electoral malpractice, and enhanced oversight mechanisms aimed at strengthening Nigeria's democracy. In Abuja, for News Central, Aishat Salihu.
The Senate Committee on Finance has rejected the 2026 revenue projections presented by the Corporate Affairs Commission, citing poor structure and insufficient data. Lawmakers expressed dissatisfaction with the document, noting that the Commission fails to provide clear records of its 2025 expenditure and a detailed roadmap for the coming fiscal year. They specifically flagged inconsistencies in the reported remittances and outstanding obligations, demanding a more transparent financial disclosure from the agency's leadership.
You have to provide explanations for the variances. Expected, actual. And you understand? Hello, expected, actual, and the variance, and explanations for those variants. Then for 2026, we need the assumptions, clear-cut assumptions. Okay, underlining your figures. We need them very clearly. And that is the only way we can follow you. Because we don't tell us the assumptions and you plant the figures here, we don't know, we can't follow.
What you need to do, we will step you down now. Then you make sure that you package everything so that by the time you present to us and we looked at it, whatever question we have to raise, we'll raise it. I know that you are not taking any money from the national budget. You are self-funded, but there is a certain percentage that's supposed to be retained by you and the other to be remitted to the Consolidated Revenue Fund.
It is not our conduct, and it's not my conduct. I hold this committee in high esteem, sir. What happened that day, sir? It's actually a miscommunication between our staff and the committee. And I observed that I have issues internally in my commission concerning communication between the National Assembly and my commission.
The Lagos State House of Assembly has resolved the land dispute between the management of the Lagos State University of Science and Technology and the family of Segun Eyigbala, while approving the governor's nomination of Adebisi Adelabu as the general manager of the Lagos State Parking Authority. News Centre's Omolola Ololade has more in this report.
Following the presentation of the report by the Lagos State House Majority Leader and Chairman Ad hoc Committee, Babatunde Adams, a unanimous decision was made during plenary to resolve the land disputes between the management of the Lagos State University of Science and Technology, Ikorodu, and the family of Segun Eyigbala.
And it looks like the recommendation has come to actually the best suggestion, which is that they should allocate the family, who were primarily the customary owners of the land, equal portion of land that will benefit them in that area, which I think is a good conclusion. So I would like to recommend that the report be adopted as the recommendation of the House.
Whatever compensation, be it land or money in lieu of land, I think we should walk along the line of their request, which they claim to be 15.7827 hectares.
The decision was the approval of 50 hectares of land for the family of Segun Eyigbala by the Lagos State government. Other consensus reached at the House was the confirmation of the governor's nominee, Adebisi Adelabu, as the general manager for Lagos State Parking Authority.
The committee recommends that the state government should ensure the release of 50 hectares of land at a good location in Ikorodu to Segun Eyigbala, the Senate family, as compensation, since it has been established that they were the original customary owners of land situated within the Lagos State University of Science and Technology, LASUTECH, formerly known as Lagos State Polytechnic in Ikorodu, which have been acquired for overriding public interest by the state government.
All in favor say aye. Those against nay, the ayes have it.
The Speaker of the House, Mudashiru Obasa, subsequently directed the Majority Leader to formally convey the decision of the Assembly to the Governor for implementation. In Lagos, for News Central, Omolola Ololade.
Thank you, Omolola. Let's go outside our shores again. Zimbabwe on Monday began releasing nearly 4,000 inmates who were granted presidential amnesty in a bid to ease overcrowding in prisons. The cabinet announced the amnesty in February. On the same day, it approved sweeping changes to the constitution as part of a plan to extend 83-year-old President Emmerson Mnangagwa's term till 2030. Justice Minister Ziyambi Ziyambi said at a press conference in the capital Harare that a total of 4,305, including 223 women, will eventually be released. Business, sports and entertainment news comes next. Stay with us.
Talking business now, Nigeria's net foreign reserves rose sharply to $34.80 billion at the end of 2025 from $3.99 billion in 2023, signaling stronger external buffers, according to Yemi Cardoso, Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Gross reserves also climbed to $45.71 billion in 2025 from $40.19 billion in a year earlier. Cardoso said the improvement reflects enhanced reserve quality, greater transparency in FX management, and sustained policy reforms. As of February 16, 2026, gross reserves stood at $50.45 billion, underscoring Nigeria's improved capacity to meet external obligations, stabilize the naira, and strengthen macroeconomic resilience. And looking at the stock market, it staged a strong rebound as the all-share index climbed 1.39% to close at 192,826. And of course, lifting market capitalization to 125.5 trillion naira. Well, it was a session defined by decisive buying in key sectors, even though participation was selective beneath the surface. We'll now look at the sectoral performance, even as the banking sector edged up 0.26%. Mood's gaining there with tier one names like Zenith Bank holding the queue steady. Insurance, however, slipped 1.49%, showing continued weakness as sellers remained active in this space. Well, oil and gas surged 4.68% higher, the clear standout of the day. A huge resurgence, I must say, with aggressive demand in Aradel and other upstream counters powering the sector higher. Now, consumer goods rose 0.36%, reflecting cautious accumulation in some defensive stocks, and industrial goods up 2.49%, providing significant support and reinforcing the bullish undertone. That's it on business. I am Lekon Obanjo.
In sports, Nigeria's women's national football team, the Super Falcons, will seek redemption against Cameroon's women's team in their second pre-WAFCON friendly in Yaoundé on Tuesday after a late 1-0 defeat in the first meeting. Zvana Mbomezomo struck in added time at the military stadium to hand Cameroon victory, beating debutant goalkeeper Comfort Erabo. Despite the loss, Nigeria created chances through several second-half substitutes, but goalkeeper Ange Bawo kept them at bay. Coach Justin Madugu is expected to adjust tactics and the personnel as the 9-time African champions intensify preparations for the Women's Africa Cup of Nations. Chamaka Nnadozie could return in goal, while captain Rashida Tajibade leads a strong attacking cast as the Super Falcons aim to finish the friendly series on a high. Now, Ethiopia can play international fixtures at home for the first time in 5 years after the Confederation of African Football approved the use of its Dire Dawa Stadium on Monday. The East African country of 130 million people has been forced to play matches abroad since 2021 after CAF declared that all three of its main stadiums in Addis Ababa, Bahir Dar, and Dire Dawa failed to meet international standards. The Ethiopia Football Federation said the second largest in Dire Dawa will host Ethiopia's 2027 Africa Cup of Nations first round, second leg qualifier against Sao Tome and Principe on the 31st of March after its refurbishment was approved by CAF inspectors. The federation have reappointed former international player Johan Saleh to prepare the national team for the qualifiers, whose first leg will be held in Sao Tome on the 25th of March. Now, the Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya have announced that Kenya marathon runner Rita Jeptu, a national 400-meter hurdles champion, Wiseman Were, and the 25 athletes have been provisionally suspended for doping violations. 45-year-old Jeptu, a former Boston and Chicago Marathon winner, was banned for 4 years in 2014 after testing positive for a banned substance and only returned to racing 3 years ago. She has now been suspended again following a test that found the presence of prohibited anabolic androgenic steroids. She will remain suspended until her hearing, but Kenya's anti-doping agency did not say when that will be. The list also includes football and basketball players who have been provisionally suspended for varying doping offenses. More than 140 Kenyan athletes, mainly long-distance runners, have been suspended by the Athletics Integrity Unit since 2017, more than any other nation. The current suspensions come after the Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya was removed from the World Anti-Doping Agency non-compliance watch list after meeting the required standards. And that's a wrap on Sports Updates. I am Udoka Njoko.
And now in entertainment, Nigerian global star Wizkid has been ranked the best-selling African artist of all time. According to recent industry data tracking cumulative sales, streams, and certifications across major markets, the milestone also makes him the first African artist to surpass an estimated 20 billion worldwide streams, a feat now celebrated by fans and industry insiders alike. Now, since breaking out in the early 2010s, Wizkid's career has been defined by chart-topping solo albums. Made in Lagos is a good example. High-profile collaborations. I'm talking collaboration, of course, with Drake, Beyonce, and many more. Of course, there's always still argument who is the big three, but we're super proud of how far Wizkid has come. Of course, out of Africa, global superstar Shakira has set a new attendance record at Mexico City's historic Zocalo Square, drawing an estimated 400,000 people to her free concert, the largest crowd ever for the iconic venue. Now, the high-energy show featured many of her biggest hits and reaffirmed her deep connection with Mexican and Latin American fans. Now, reports say the turnout underlines Shakira's lasting influence on Latin pop and the continued global strength of the genre. The record-breaking crowd follows all the recent major live music milestones this year. Now, those are the biggest stories in entertainment. I am Sam Dandy.
That's our offering tonight. As always, we'll love feedback from you. Please share them. Use the number showing now on your screen. You can follow us on social media at News Central TV, or you could watch our programming live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and on YouTube. Thank you for watching. Have a good night.